our garlicky cashew chicken. Oh, I forgot one of the really important ingredients. I'll be right back. We're gonna start cooking our garlicky cashew chicken. So I'm gonna start heating up my pan first. I wanna get my pan a little hot before I add my oil. Once again, we are not using olive oil. Vegetable oil does not have a place in my kitchen. It does not exist here. Coconut oil would be decent for this recipe, but I wanna get it hot and get it cooked quick because I got kids and they're hungry. The soup is simmering, the rice is going, everything is gonna come together in a quick period of time, and I'm just gonna wow all the people with my 3-course dish that really wasn't that much, didn't take that much time or that much money. So while the pan is getting hot, I'm gonna walk you through a little bit what we're gonna do. So one of the things that I learned from Pooh in Thailand is that to make a really good cashew chicken, what you need to do is you need to saute the cashews in the oil. The flavor of the cashews goes into the oil, it diffuses through the entire dish. Diffuses? Yeah, maybe. Infuses, there you go, the entire dish, and we have this whole good cashew goodness. It also makes the cashews that we're going to take out and then put back on the top crunchy and crisp. You have to watch out for these stinkers, they burn really fast. So we get our oil, couple tablespoons, usually a swirl or two, a swirl and a half is about a tablespoon. You can add oil as needed. I'm going to turn this off. This really only needed 3 minutes and I don't want to overcook it, and it's going to get like extra flavorful really fast. So we're going to just turn this off and let it kind of chill while the rest of this gets going. So the oil is getting hot. I want one more swirl. And then we're going to add our cashews. While the oil is heating up, I neglected to cut up my chicken before. All right, so I have different cutting boards in my house for different things. I want the chicken to be about the same size as the veggies. There's something just, especially for kids, if you've got picky eaters or anything like that, you want continuity, congruity, and like the look factor that's gonna get people on board. So let's see. A great way to get people on board is to either cut things really small if you're trying to hide things, or is to create a really attractive dish that, you know, you're gonna convince everyone they want because it's so good. So we might have to make this be slower because the oil is not hot yet. So this is my technique for checking the oil to see if it's hot. It's not safe, I don't really recommend it. I learned from someone who's smarter than I that if you put the end of the wooden spoon in and it gives a little crackle or a little sizzle, then you know the oil is ready and rip-roaring hot to go. Avocado oil is one of those that once again has the high smoke point. You don't want to cook high heat with avocado oil, it's just not healthful for you. The gas that it releases, first of all, is harmful. And then the good parts of the olive oil that we're looking for, the therapeutic benefit that people say, oh, olive oil is so good for you, gets destroyed in that process, and then it's just not good for you. So that's a no-go. All right, so I think my oil is just about hot. So while I'm going to take 2 seconds of a break from this microbiome, health, nose, things. Let's see. And we're going to give these guys only a couple minutes on the high heat here to get all of that nice cashewy goodness infused into the oil. And we'll want to take them off real quick when they start to brown because they'll burn really quickly. So we'll check back in a minute. So these dudes are starting to get brown. You gotta stir them pretty constantly or else they will burn. And the second they start to get brown, you're gonna take your slotted spoon and just like you would with your bacon, not that any of you eat bacon, because I sure do weekly. I mean, don't. You're gonna take this slotted spoon and you're gonna get these cashews on here. They're gonna crisp up while we cook the rest of the dish. Be wary, this pan is raging hot now, as is the oil. So when we add our next thing in, which is going to be our onion, it's gonna give a nice sizzle. So don't fry your faces, people. So when we add things to a stir fry, it can be overwhelming because it happens kind of fast. And so you just need to have in your head that you're gonna add things in order from the firmest to the softest, just literally by touch. So the onion is what's gonna go in first. It's the hardest of these things we have out here, so it's going to take the longest to cook, which means when we get to the end, we don't want super mushy whatever else, right? We want a little crisp. Another great tip of cooking that I learned in grad school, my husband likes to say that I have a master's degree in cutting up vegetables, which is not entirely wrong, is that if you add just a pinch of salt each time you add an ingredient to a cooking dish like this, like a stir fry, or even if you're making soup and you're adding, you know, things to kind of cook in the bottom of the pan, fry, there you go. Adding a pinch of salt each time you add an ingredient is bringing out and enhancing the natural flavor of each of those ingredients. That way when you get to the end of a dish, you should not have to add a bunch of salt to it. I am not afraid of salt. Some people need to do low sodium diets for health concerns. We use a mineral salt that has a large diversity of minerals, and so it's not just a sodium salt. So we're gonna give the onions only about that long before I add in the chicken. If you're making this, you can easily make this a vegetarian dish. You can add firm tofu. You'd want to add that towards the end, right? Because it's a softer food. You can serve this dish up without any meat at all. Put a fried egg on the top of it and call that good to go. You can pick a different plant protein that you want to incorporate into it. There's lots of options. So pinch of salt, just a little, that was not much. And we're gonna fry up these two things for about 2 to 3 minutes. With chicken, you just wanna make sure that it's mostly cooked before we add the rest of the ingredients. You don't need to make sure that it's completely hard done, but you don't wanna start adding the rest of these veggies because they're gonna take some of the heat. We wanna make sure the chicken is enough done that it doesn't get neglected in the rest of the dish. All right. So the chicken's been cooking for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it's starting to get a little bit of a brown on it, which is great. The onions are getting what we like to call kind of this caramelized. They're getting brown on the edges. They're still white on the inside and firm, a little crisp. A great trick is to add a little bit of this hoisin sauce that we made for before. Not much, just a little, because we don't want to lose the flavor in all the cooking process as it, you know, gets all heated up. But this will cause that flavor to cook into the chicken. So a trick that I like to use to see if my chicken is done is I fish out the biggest piece, because if you're like me and you're easily distracted and you don't remember exactly how long it's been in there, and I use my whatever I'm using at the time to kind of break it in half. If there is uncooked in the middle, it's going to be really hard to cut with a wooden spatula. But because it's basically done, there's really no pink in there, it's good to go. So now we're getting a little bit of this caramelization from the hoisin sauce up in here. It's good to go. Chicken's done. Onions are just a little bit crisp still, which is good because we don't want them to just be little balls of mush by the time we're done. We're gonna turn heat on to high. We are gonna get cooking with gas. Not really, I wish I had my gas stove back. So, adding veggies, firmest to softest. For this particular stir fry, and you, like I said, you can change this bad boy up and do whatever floats your boat. But for this stir fry, the hardest was the onions. Then we added the chicken. They weren't very hard, but they do need to get cooked before all the other veggies steal their heat. And now we have the peppers. This is a stage I would also add carrots to, or maybe add the carrots a little bit before the peppers. The peppers are the same stage that I would add maybe like actual peas to, or green beans I mean. The peas and the pea pods are going to be more around this, like, if you think about how hard it is to break into something, you want to have about the same texture. It's only going to take about 1 to 2 minutes per veggie because we're adding them strategically in order from firmness to softness. So we're gonna give these bad boys about a minute. The great thing about using different colored veggies, because we're looking for a dish that has a bunch of brilliant colors in it, is that each color is specifically correlated with a phytonutrient or different minerals and vitamins in each one. So it's getting a little dry, so I'm gonna add a little bit more oil. So I make sure that we don't burn all the things on my inaugural cooking class. So color, diversity. Green peppers are great, but we have several other green things going on. So I'm looking for color. I want red, full of vitamin A and all of these awesome things. You'll be able to see the nutrient breakdown in the recipe handouts, and you're gonna get that will change based on what veggies of different colors you put in there. I've cooked this with eggplant, Thai eggplant, like I said, pea pods, all kinds of great things. So that's about it for those guys. That was me 2 minutes of gabbing, just about. Endless talking. All right, next is this stage. The very last one, if we were adding something like mushrooms, would be the mushrooms, because they're already pretty soft. So messy, you guys. All the time, every day. Oh, it's looking pretty. It's getting a little crispy. You don't want it to be super soupy at the end. You just need enough oil in the bottom of the pan to keep things moving. 1 to 2 minutes of this guy, especially if you like your veggies a little crisp, which we do. All right, this is a common mistake that most people make. I'd call it a mistake because I think it is a mistake. Sorry, people. Is that people add their onion and garlic at the beginning of a dish. It's just kind of like what the recipe says, or that's what you're supposed to do. When you do that, you are cooking out a lot of the nutritional benefit that is in the garlic, and you're also losing a lot of the flavor. If you're going to make a garlicky dish, you want it to taste garlicky. And only lightly cooking the garlic at the end is going to enhance the flavor, but also the nutritional benefit of the garlic. You don't want to overcook it. You don't want to kill what's going on in there. So my zucchini is just about, look, I'm ambidextrous. Sort of my left hand. It's just about to the right texture for me. There is something to keep in mind with adding the garlic at the end. If you don't cook the garlic enough, you're going to get a bite of raw garlic, which is a little bit spicy. So making sure that this gets cooked enough, giving it, if there weren't all these veggies in here, I would give, and there was just oil, I would give it 30 seconds, just so it's aromatic and it's pulling the flavor out, and then you're good. Because we've got all these veggies in here and not all of the garlic is touching the bottom of the pan at any given time, I'm gonna give it about a minute, minute and a half, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it so that I make sure I don't have any pieces that aren't touching the bottom and getting in the heat to actually get cooked. I don't mind raw garlic that much because it's good, but one of the heroic challenges that I try not to frequently recommend my client is a raw garlic challenge for like if you're on the verge of getting bronchitis or something like that, because there's just tons of research in how garlic can prevent those kind of lung issues and support healthy, like good lung health and not cardiovascular, what's the respiratory health. But I don't think your kids or your spouses or your nieces or nephews or your parents are going to be thrilled if they take a big old hunk of raw garlic. I turn the heat down to low because I don't want to overcook anything. I like the crispness that I've got everything at. Taste as you go. Taste it if you want. See how it is. Don't burn your fingers. So the hoisin sauce we made earlier, it's all going in there. That's why we turn the heat down to low. We don't want to cook it all out. We want to cook it in. It's only gonna take less than a minute for this guy. There was some garlic in there, as you remember. Oh my goodness, doesn't that smell good? It's like my facial for the day. My garlicky cashew facial. My husband's gonna wanna just kiss me all the time. So it's already getting thick. I'm gonna just turn it off. We've got a nice thick texture in the bottom. If you want a little bit more soupiness, you can add a little bit of stock, especially when it's on high heat, and it'll kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan and get all of that stuff that's kind of cooked onto the bottom of the pan. But this is so messy. But this is about perfect for me and enough sauciness. So we're going to serve this up, all we need to do is sprinkle over our green onion that we cut up earlier, our shallots, and then we're going to throw our cashews on, let's sprinkle them on the top to make them look all beautiful. Serve over our brown rice or white rice, and we basically have a meal. So let's eat. Does it work if I just be quiet when I'm cooking? Like, I don't have anything else to say, and this is gonna take like 3 minutes. Oh my gosh. Get your face in here and smell this. Oh, don't burn the cashews. Don't be that guy.